Hey guys, welcome to Mitch's Music. Just me today, no guitar, nothing. I just wanted to give you guys a couple of my thoughts on on the setting up a tone because I get those questions a lot. Like, what are your settings? And there's no simple answer for it because when what I'm using is not the same as what you're using. And so let's start there. So if you are listening right now, in the chat, if you would like, put in your guitar that you're playing and what amp you're using. And I'll go ahead and let you guys know what I use. And then we'll get to talking through like sort of my thoughts on tone and getting a good tone from your guitar and your amp. So if you're just joining us, if you don't mind, put in your amp and your guitar in the chat, and that'll also help me kind of direct the things I'm talking about. Now, this is not going to be super in depth because most of the time when people ask me these things, I feel like they're wanting an easy answer. And I don't blame you. Nowadays, with what I use, by the way, I have a Fender Deluxe Telecaster, and you are probably not going to see that guitar on my videos for a little while. It has a dead fret. So if you see my country videos and you're wondering, hey, like this song would be perfect for the Telecaster, why isn't he using the Telecaster? That's why it's kind of to the side at the moment because it has a dead fret a little higher up. Then I have my Strat, and I have the acoustic, but the pedal that I use is called a Line 6 Helix, and it is. Let me try to fix this. And it is basically an amp modeler, and you have your amps and your effects in there, and so I can do a lot more with it than if you just have an amp or something at home. Um, and so let's just talk about the general setup of what an amp has, and just kind of how I would approach using just a basic amp. I'm talking about something that you get like a player pack, and you've got like a Fender Squier and then a Fender amp, or just a very basic beginner pack. And thank you so much, David. Yeah, any support you guys can throw my way, feel free. And so um, but you have your treble knob, you've got your mids knob, and you've got a bass knob, you've got a volume knob, and sometimes you have a gain knob. Sometimes there's a channel select in there, and we'll talk about that later. And so if you're starting out with your amp, and this is just something that I wanted to talk through. I don't really have a particular amp to show you right now, but if you are starting out with your amp, grab your guitar, grab your amp, put everything dead center. So 12 o'clock, right at the top. Your bass is at 12 o'clock. Your mids is at 12 o'clock. Your treble is at 12 o'clock. Start there. All right. Your volume needs to be up loud enough that you can hear it because your volume is also going to affect your sound. Depending on your amp, if you have not pressed the channel button, you probably don't have access to that gain knob, and that's fine. While you're just dead 12 o'clock, play around with the different pickups on your guitar. Start by finding the pickup that you like the sound of better. All right, so find your favorite sound, whether it's your bridge pickup or somewhere closer to the neck. I kind of move around a little bit. Sometimes you'll see, if you look closely at my videos, sometimes you will see me playing closer to the neck, like my pickup setting is somewhere in the neck. Other times is at the bridge. And the way I think about the difference between those, I think that my neck sound in general has a little bit more bass to it, and then my bridge sound tends to have a little bit more treble, but it's also because of the pickup down there, it has a lot more drive. And so I tend to use that for solos to kind of cut through just a little bit more. And then on the neck side is more for when I'm playing like a rhythm part and I want it to be in the background. So pick your favorite sound. Don't take anything from me. Pick your favorite sound on your guitar and start there. Okay. And so you've got everything at 12 o'clock. You've picked your favorite sound on your guitar from your pickup and starting there. And then after that, just start adjusting and do like a gain boost on, just turn the bass up, see how that affects the tone. Turn the bass down, see how that affects the tone. Actually knowing what those are doing to your sound, because it's going to change from amp to amp. Actually knowing how those affect your sound on your guitar is way more important than just looking up settings, because looking up settings is going to change from guitar to guitar. Let me read a couple of comments. Fender Rumble, nice. Squire Mini Strat, nice. Oh, cool. Okay. Yeah. So any of those are great starts. So personally, if I were dealing with one of those starter type amps, and let's just say that I wanted to play country, I wanted most of my sound to be clean, and I'm not going to use any distortion at all. I don't want any overdrive or anything like that. Honestly, I would press that gain, that channel select button, and always stay in the channel that has the gain control, if your amp has that, and start there. Because what the gain does is it makes it louder. It adds a little edge. So if you don't like that, this may not be for you, but it adds a little edge, but it also gives you a little bit more control of your actual tone. So any change you make on that gain, like in all of my amps, there's a little bit, anything that I put online, nothing is completely clean. Nothing is just crystal clear, clean at all. I always have some sort of a drive, and mainly because I feel like that extra hit, because what happens is when you put a drive pedal in front of the amp, it is going to push that first hit of the amp. So like, say you're plugging a guitar into a drive pedal and then going into the amp, that is going to actually push the amp a little bit more. And so it's going to change the way the preamp handles that signal a little bit. And so I always like to boost my signal just a little bit before I even go into the amp. So if you have the ability to get a drive pedal on the outside of your amp, and it does not have to be a super like overdrive pedal, I can put in a couple of suggestions. And honestly, my suggestions are based off of models in the Helix, the things that I personally use in the Helix. But I would put a drive pedal before that. And if you don't have that ability, but your amp does have two channels, I would stay in that second channel that gives you the gain control, and just keep the gain maybe at like 2 or 3 really low, because you don't want that to actually, you don't want to really hear that distorted sound. but having just a little bit in there, it boosts your signal, and it also kind of gives you a little bit more freedom on the other side, to adjust the bass and the mids and the treble a little bit. I personally, if I was just dealing with a bass, a middle, and a treble, I a lot of people don't think that this is great sound of advice, but I like my bass boosted just a little bit. So, like, say if you have numbers, I would put it in five is 12 o'clock on your dial. I would put it at about a 6 or a 7. I would cut the mids just a little bit, maybe 4, and then normally I like to boost the treble a little bit. The mids are going to be, to me, more of your harsh sounds. So I tend your ears in general tend to hear mid sounds a little bit better. And so when you have too much mid, it tends, your ears interpret it a little bit as more of a harsh sound. And so what I normally end up taking the mids out, adding a little bit more bass, and then put a little bit of the treble side. And the treble is more of what people would call like a shimmer. So it just kind of adds a little almost ambiance to the sound. Um, yeah. So yeah, the surf tone is great, and that is in general a super clean tone. Most of your amps would have the reverb you need. I mean, that's, so a surf tone is basically like a spring reverb, and then a delay with just some repetition, almost a slapback, but a little bit longer than that. Um, but yeah, that is honestly one of the first sounds that I went after. And so on most of my videos, my setup would have, so I have a drive pedal in front just to push the amp just a little bit. And really that, like I said, gives me a little bit more control over the overall tone. And then when I'm playing leads, or I want a little bit more distortion, I have a what's called a tube screamer, which is another drive pedal, in addition to that I normally will just turn on. And really all that does is it adds a little bit, like you can really hear the distortion when I'm playing a chord, but when I'm playing single strings, it's you can't hear it too much. It's a little dirty, but not too bad. But I still like it to be super clean. But that's kind of where I go. So if you have wondered what my tone is, that's it. And then other than that, other than just the general amp tones, the only other things that I'm adding is a reverb and a delay at the end. And that's one of the things that honestly I changed the most, because I don't know what it is, and I don't know if it's software upgrades on the different things that I use or what, but there will be times that my ears just hear too much delay, hear too much reverb, and so I'll cut it back. And so from video to video, if you just started in 2019 at my old videos to now, that is probably the major change you're going to hear in my sound, is that I have probably cut the reverb and delay a little bit over time, just because I was starting to get to where I was just hearing it too much. But once you find something, let's get back to your amp. You've got your little amp, whatever you're using, and find something that you like and stop tweaking and start playing. Because what I've found is that everybody says that your tone comes from your fingers, and that's true. But I think that once you find a sound that you like, and you start to play with it, your playing is going to adapt to the tone. And because your playing's adapting, the tone's going to get better too. And so even if to begin with you don't like the tone that you're hearing, play with it and I promise you it will start to it's almost like you're creating a relationship with the tone. And so as you start to play, then I promise you that that little bit that you're like, it's not quite there, most of the time that's going to come from your playing, and the way your playing is going to change based on the tone. And especially like when you're setting a tone, a lot of people out here, they're just like playing one thing. They'll play like one song and then they're tweaking and playing again and tweaking. And you're not really in a playing situation anyway. So find something that sounds pretty good and then play. And then after a couple of weeks, if you're like, okay, I still don't like this, then go back to the drawing board, mess around with the like bump things up, bump things down, see what's happening. And so so that's kind of what I would do. Now, let's say that you want to upgrade. So I've helped you with, hopefully I've helped you with the tone that you, with anything that you've already had. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below and I'll answer them. But let's just say you wanted to upgrade. Nowadays, you can almost let somebody else do the work for you. I mean, that's kind of what I did. When I got the Line 6 Helix, the first thing I did, I played with it, but it's not an amp, it's a pedal. And so it's a little cumbersome to edit and play with. And it's honestly got one of the best interfaces of any of the other ones out there, but I still did not like it. And so the first thing I did was go online and download some settings that people had already made that looked like they might be close to what I wanted. And then it gave me a starting point. And so if you would like to upgrade, Fender makes some things that you can do that way. Like I can't remember, I think their Mustang series does some downloadable things, and that's a faster way to get there. You could also do an audio interface if you're playing mostly at home, and you can even get the software for the Helix. Normally, I think it's about $150 for the software. So if you got an interface, then you could use the computer and headphones. If you're mostly playing at home, that's a great option. Then there's the Spark amp. There's a huge community of people making stuff for that. So there's a lot of options out there that would be a little bit of an upgrade and are still fairly inexpensive. And with all of the digital options, you can have a better starting point in a way to where you can just download a sound and then tweak from something that somebody else has already kind of created for the most part. And hopefully that is a way to get you a little bit closer. The only thing I would say that I'm a little disappointed with in most of these amps that are coming out that are digital is think about what you want to do with it. So if you are just playing at your house, then maybe having something that hooks to a computer or headphones, or even is just a small amp in the room, is good enough. But if you want to play out, one of the things I would look for is to make sure that it has a good output that can go to a soundboard, because you're going to need that. Because most of these smaller amps are not going to work well with being mic'd. So whatever you want to use to upgrade, I would look at some sort of making sure it has an output. And most likely you would want something a little bit better than just a headphone out. So let me, thanks, William. And I hope that you get a chance to watch it later. But I hope that helped you guys a little bit with sort of my thought process. Like I said, I get asked this question all the time. And if you are watching this video later, leave your amp and guitar in the comments below and let me know any questions that you have. And hopefully I can help you go in the right direction, because it's hard in general to just tell people, okay, you do this and you do this and you do this, and it gives you a good tone, because it really doesn't. You've got to kind of live with it a little bit and tweak and live with it. And the main thing that I would advise you to do is play, because I feel like there are so many tone chasers out there that continue to upgrade and continue to search and look for a better tone, and they're always searching for a better tone, but it's taking them away from playing. And that may be all that they need to do to get a better tone. And so I think I'm going to leave you guys with that. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. Yeah, thank you so much, Susan, for hanging out. And yeah, that's it. It really, I am honestly, I was sort of on the tone chasing boat for a long time. And I guess I just finally got tired of it. And I got to the point where I was like, my tone's good enough, you know? And then when I settled and I got to play, you really just need a little tweak here and there all the time. I mean, not even all the time, but just every now and then, and you'll be fine. All right. I had fun with you guys today. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a great weekend.